I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 11th, 2024 meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission. This meeting and hearings of the Conservation Commission will be held in person at our location in Burlington, the Town Hall. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technical problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person attendance versus virtual attendance accordingly. Okay, do the roll call. Rob Sheehan.
Present.
Ed Laturco.
Here.
Kent Moffett, not here, absent. Bill Boyven.
Here.
And Indra Deb.
Here.
Sarah Walensky. She should be marked absent. The chair, Larry Cohen, for the record, is present. 5 present, 2 absent at this point. All right, now regarding the agenda, we have one item on the agenda, item number 7. That hearing will not be open tonight, and we will open that hearing on the second meeting of April 25th, 2024. So if anyone is either listening or here for 54 Francis Wyman Road, public hearing, that will not be opened tonight. Okay. Next item is public comment, which is some time reserved for things not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to say something about an item that's not on the agenda tonight? All right, the record should show that there is no one for public comment. Next, we have approval of minutes, and the ones that I saw we have are for March 14th. We have a draft of minutes of March 14th. Is there anything substantial needing discussion?
No, they look fine.
All right, could I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 14th?
No move.
Okay, Ed, second?
Second.
Bill. All right. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Abstain.
4, 0, 1. All right. Okay. All right. The, Eileen, John, I assume the minutes of March 28th are not ready?
Correct.
Okay. Next, we have a request for a certificate of compliance. It's for 2 Stanwood Street for Dev Prasad Duda. Dada. Is that you?
Yeah.
You're welcome to come up, and I hope I didn't mangle
Oh,
it.
that's good, yeah.
Okay, so you can sit near the microphone.
Thank you.
Why don't you just, for the record, introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dev Prasad Datta. I live in 2 Stanwood Street, Burlington. We bought it's a new construction we got in 2013. And I work for National Grid. My wife, she works for John Hancock. So we have been Burlington resident for quite some time now. Even before we purchased the house, we were in Burlington.
All right, well, good evening, nice to see you.
Yeah, same here. Thank you.
Okay, so, John and Eileen, we did have a site visit. Would you care to make some comments before we move ahead?
Sure. So the applicant for the certificate of compliance is the current owner. He was not the party to that the order of conditions was issued to. That was the builder. Apparently, the builder hasn't been totally cooperative in helping to get a certificate of compliance, but fortunately, he did have an as-built plan done so the order of conditions was in 2012, and there was an as-built plan done in December of 2012. So we do have an as-built plan. The project entailed filling a small isolated wetland along Stanwood Street, non-jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act, but jurisdictional under your bylaw. That wetland was replicated on, if you're looking at the house from Stanwood, on the right-hand side. That area does look fine. It looks like a wetland to me, and it actually, where they replicated it is actually adjacent to a bordering vegetated wetland, so the replication area actually increases the size of the BVW. It's not an isolated wetland like the original wetland they filled. I told the applicant that if we looked at it and it seemed like the wetland was successful, we wouldn't require him to hire a wetland scientist to evaluate the wetland. I thought it looked fine. And that's about it. There was a bond for this, but it was a paper bond and it's expired, so.
Okay. Okay, on the right, Ed or Rob, any further comment on this one?
Nothing.
All right, on this side, we have, Mr. Kent Moffett has showed up, so we'll take you off the absent list. All right, okay. All right, I just moved the arrow in the other direction. Okay, anybody on the left have comments on this? All right.
So, John, what is your recommendation what is the recommendation here?
To issue the certificate of compliance, yeah.
All right. And as John made note, the replicated wetland is probably more valuable than the original wetland that it was taken from, so sounds great. All right, so therefore, if there's nothing further, could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 2 Stanwood Street for Mr. Dutta, DEP file number 122-489?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? 600. Since there's no bond, we don't have to release a bond,
Correct.
so you're all set.
Okay. I
Thank you
appreciate it.
very much.
Thanks a lot.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
I can sit here for other.
As long as you want, or until you fall asleep. Okay. All right, next, we have we're down to item 5A, notice is given, the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting. Okay, and we will act upon a request for determination of applicability filed by William Baslock for a proposed shed installation within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands. The property is located at 4 Forest Road in Burlington. Okay, the application is being heard under the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14, and anyone may obtain a copy of the application by writing to conservation@burlington.org. Is there somebody in the audience or online for this? All right, have a seat, please. Usually the way this starts is you introduce yourself, say where you live, and anything about what you're proposing, as little or as much as you'd like.
My name is William Baslock. I live at 4 Forest Road. I am hoping to replace the existing shed that you see in the picture there with a somewhat larger one. Current one's 4 foot by 7, in pretty rough shape. The tree branches falling on it have done a number on it. Looking to replace it with a 10 by 12 structure on gravel foundation. Hopefully will last a lot longer.
Okay. All right, thank you. So either Eileen or John, do you have some comments on this one?
Yeah, I will. So, like Mr. Baslock explained, he wants to replace this very, very tiny little shed with something a little bit more substantial. There is this stream channel in the back here. It runs, I think, west to east, I think it is, which does take, it's at least intermittently full. And there's some wetland very close behind the shed. There is actually a little bit of dumping into the wetlands, so we have put something into the proposed conditions just for him to take that out. He wants to replace it in the same place with a slightly bigger shed. I don't have any issues with that bigger shed going in. It's just going to go in on a gravel pad. We would just like it to go no closer than existing, and for him to stop dumping the yard waste into the wetland, just move it off somewhere else. And really, that's it. It's a pretty simple,
Sounds very straightforward.
it is.
Okay. Let's see if there's any other questions or comments. Ed?
Nothing really, other than there's noticeably some grass and whatnot's being thrown back there. That should be cleaned out and should not be basically dumped in that area.
Okay. Rob?
I guess just one question. I know sometimes when we do sheds, we sort of have the elevated sheds with the like air gap versus sheds that are sort of in ground contact. I remember we discussed one, it was in the, I think floodplain, so the building department suggested it. Well, I think we're required that it be elevated.
Well, it's
But
it's us too.
in this case, it's either, you know,
It's not in the floodplain, it's not in the wetland, it is pretty close to the wetland, so it didn't seem necessary to ask him to do something that the shed manufacturer wasn't
yes,
proposing
okay,
to.
okay.
Didn't really feel necessary to ask for something else.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
All right, good question. Kent, anything on this?
I think the only thing was what Eileen pointed out, the shed's no closer than the existing one. I think that's fine. And then, I was just curious, like, is the shed going on cinder blocks? I have a shed at home, and I know I'm not in a floodplain, so
I don't know. It's stick-built Reed's Ferry structure, like picked out of their catalog, basically. I may have included some Reed's Ferry documentation.
Sorry, you actually might have. Let me go back and find your application. It is going to go on a gravel pad. They're going to put a gravel pad in there. So while you're talking, let me just pull out his application to see if there was something more in there.
All right, Indra, anything?
So the question is, the shed will be on the gravel only?
Yes.
No foundation, nothing? No connection?
No, what, sorry?
It will just on the gravel?
Yes, I mean, if the shed people say we would prefer to raise it up, that's completely fine, because raised up is fine, is good, but we're okay with just the gravel.
Right.
Okay.
All right, Bill?
You certainly have currently the smaller shed I think I've seen in a while, so a bigger shed would be better. I have no problems with the way you're proposing to do it. I would recommend you put it on a cinder block of some sort if it's feasible, just because I have a shed in my yard near a wetland, and the wetland seems to be growing with these rainfall, 3 and 4 inches at a time now. It's at times lapping up to the bottom of the shed, and I'm wondering if, I wish I had another 6 inches of clearance. So if it's feasible and not any significant expense or anything, I would recommend putting it up on a few cinder blocks and having a small ramp to the front door if you need one to get your wheeled equipment in there.
Understood. Yep, I will ask the Reed's Ferry people.
Yeah, I was just curious too, because the one we did is bigger. It was put on cinder blocks, like it had like a gravel, and we're not really in a floodplain. So it's just for, not for like conservation, but to Bill's point, it's probably to preserve life of the shed.
Yeah.
If you have a wood bottom, it's probably, if it's on like just gravel, it's probably gonna rot out. So it's probably that's something to ask the people.
All right, I have nothing further on this. It's all been said. So I don't see anyone for any further comment. So we have a draft negative conditional determination, which basically says if we vote it, which it's likely to pass, that if you adhere to a few precautions, then you're all set. So we're going to review it and then vote. Okay?
Right, I was looking for his other material, but I'll just, oh no, I'm not sharing anymore. Back to, right. So he provided a plot site plan for 4 Forest Road dating from 1964, on which he sketched the shed location in a very good approximation. He proposed to remove 4x7 shed, install a new 10x12 shed on a gravel foundation in approximately the same location. This work was within 100 feet of the bank of the Lincoln stream and 100-foot buffer to bordering vegetated wetlands. Closest work was approximately 30 feet from the stream and 5 to 10 feet from the wetland. The stream is not depicted on the regulatory stream map, so it does not have a riverfront area under the wetland bylaw. As long as the shed is no closer than the existing shed, no waiver under the bylaw is required for no build and no disturb setbacks. We are asking that before it's installed, before the shed is put in, he install a line of straw wattles behind it, just in front of the wetland, just to prevent anything from falling in there while the work is happening. All destruction and demolition materials shall be excavated, and excavated soil should be disposed of off-site in a legal manner. Anything that's stockpiled should be at least 20 feet away from the wetland and also 20 feet from the street. No tracking of sediments onto public roads, and if that does occur, just sweep the road. No filling or grading on this property beyond what is required for the approved work. A gravel pad shall be applied to provide a flat surface and no other alteration. And there shall be no alteration of the wetland. Dumping in the wetland shall cease, and yard waste dumped there currently shall be removed. And the rest just says that we can just go and take a look when it's, when you have the erosion controls in place. To go.
So do you have any questions or anything you heard at all?
What, inspect erosion controls before the construction starts?
Yes.
Okay,
Although if you just contact me and you send me a picture, that might be sufficient.
okay,
It'll just be a line of water.
yep.
Okay, if there's nothing further, could I have a motion to issue a negative conditional determination for the project as described for 4 Forest Road under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 and the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 6-0-0. Sir, you're all set. Good luck
you.
with your shed.
Appreciate it, thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks for
night.
coming in. Good shot. Okay,
Now playing Solution Gates on Pandora.
okay. You have someone named Pandora?
You're leaving us? Well,
I got it on mute.
It says not mute enough.
Not mute enough.
Okay. We're on item 5B, notice is given. The Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting, during which time we'll act upon a request for determination of applicability filed by Rakesh Goel for restoration activity, including tree replacement and landscaping within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands. This application refers to a location of 12 Sarah Street in Burlington. The application's being heard under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, in Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. And again, like the other one, a copy of the application can be obtained by writing to conservation@burlington.org.
so unless he's online, it doesn't look like Rakesh or Maureen or anybody is here to represent themselves tonight. But I'll just update us if that's okay.
Yeah, is there anyone online representing 12 Sarah Street? There's one person there.
No, that was for the last project.
Or-
That was,
Basil, I didn't even catch the last name.
Okay, so well, just to remind everybody, this opened as a request for determination of applicability 2 weeks ago, and we had a few concerns, and we did a site visit, and we had some questions about the wetland delineation. So was it just you and me? John and I met with the wetland scientist a few days later, and we changed the wetland line. We added a few more flags. They're just about visible in one of these pictures here. Oh, sorry, I thought I was sharing my site photographs. When we were out there before, there was a very big pile of dirt. We told him that he could finish pouring the foundation and backfill the foundation using a lot of the piles that he had there, so as to keep them from being unstable piles for as, a shorter time as possible. So quite a lot of the big pile in the back is gone. Pretty much all the big pile in the front is gone. I mean, there's still definitely, it needs to be pulled back out of this area. And now the wetland line runs considerably in front of where the erosion controls are right now. They're working on a new plan. We had told them that we thought the best thing for them to do, given the fact that work has actually now occurred in the wetland and closer to the buffer zone, that we were recommending that you would issue a positive determination and require them to submit a notice of intent. So they probably thought that was all just kind of a done deal and there was no need to come along tonight.
Apparently.
Which, mean, that's our strong recommendation.
All right, so let's see if any of the commissioners have questions before we
Okay.
move forward on it. Ed?
No, first off, I did review that meeting
Yes.
on video. Nothing that I saw that stood out, was pretty well covered.
Okay. All right, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, like, I did watch last week's meeting as well. And when the sort of the question was raised of sort of where the wetland might be located, that sounds like, something that.
Might change things?
Yeah, it looks like a little bit to look into.
Right.
All right. Kent?
So I guess is that the intent they're gonna have to refile, is it a NOI?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is basically just a more robust hearing, process.
So
And-
when people file requests for determinations, generally you issue a negative determination of applicability, which means, okay, you're not going to disturb the wetlands if you follow these conditions and you don't need to file a notice of intent. A positive determination of applicability says you're going to disturb the wetlands. In this case, they already have. You need to file a notice of intent.
Yep.
So that's what a positive determination
Yeah,
is.
so they'd have to work through the hearing process, and if they don't, like you said, they'd have like 30 days to go back to an enforcement order. Okay, I'm with you. Yep.
All right, Indra?
Nothing.
No.
Yeah, I agree with that, moving to an NOI because of the level of disturbance that was there. Did you say the pile in front of the house was gone now also?
It mostly is, yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot, I mean, it was a big pile before.
That big,
It's a lot,
Vehicle on
it's
top of it.
significantly down.
okay. No, that sounds like appropriate.
All right, before we move forward on voting this decision, could you describe, given the wetlands line that we now have, which I assume you feel is more accurate, what's been flagged,
Yes.
could you describe the condition of the site relative to trees, relative to the wetlands, the stockpiling back relative to the wetlands, the house relative to the wetlands? Like, how close are these things, or where are they now located, now that we have the facts?
Well, we don't have if you don't mind, we don't have the new plan, but we're sort of judging from what we were seeing out there. Some of the trees that were cut down were in the wetland. Some of them were very close.
How many trees were cut down, do you remember
I think it
offhand?
was about 8 altogether.
8 big trees, right?
Fairly big, yeah.
Fairly
a lot
big
of them were
trees,
fairly
They
big.
were very big.
Now, they weren't all in the wetland, but they were certainly pretty close. And then, so the pool before was going to be, what was it going to be, like 70 feet or something?
What was
Eight-
that?
eight-
What are you
the
saying?
pool- The pool was going to be, no, in fact, it was going to be at least 80 feet or something.
They were going to
So
put
there
a,
was a swimming pool as part of this
Or
request
pool
for
behind
determination.
the house.
I
So we
see.
don't have the exact measurements, but it's definitely going to be, that end of things is going to be closer now by, maybe they'll move the pool to the other side, because that would make it further away. I don't know for sure. We don't have the new plan.
But it seems quite possible that the house itself will be in the buffer zone now. So the idea would be to consolidate the stormwater permit as well. Obviously, the order of conditions will now supersede the existing stormwater permit and will serve as a stormwater permit for the entire site, whereas the initial stormwater permit was just an administrative permit for the front half of the site.
right. It just seems to me, it's disappointing when somebody clearly just takes it upon themselves to cut down some very large trees, doesn't ask anybody about it. It turns out that they're in wetlands now, and I find it hard to believe that he didn't know that there was wetlands there and that he had to ask permission. It's just very disappointing to see that.
Especially since he lives next door.
Right, well, he knew there were wetlands there because he had wetlands on his property when he built his house.
So he knew.
There is some dispute as to who actually cut the trees down.
Dispute as to who cut the trees?
Well, yeah. He did say that the previous owners cut them down as part of their sort of agreement to switch ownership.
I see.
I don't know.
It
there's
really doesn't matter because
some strange things
the
out in that backyard.
responsibility is the owner of the property,
Right.
right? That's who's responsible for what takes place on your property.
But either way, if it isn't like properly done, then you're gonna run into a case where you could have neighbors that are gonna have excess water on their property and.
That's right. I mean,
And where we are frequently in contact with the direct abutter who has serious concerns about water. I think we both spoke to him today, right?
Yep, we did.
Didn't he come to him? Was there somebody that came to a meeting?
Pardon?
Wasn't there somebody that came to one of the meetings?
No, but he might be at the next
Oh,
one.
he's contact.
was this a butter concerned about the size of the house, or is also concerned about water?
Water.
Water mainly.
Well, after taking down 8 large trees that take up a lot of water, I would be too.
Wasn't this the one that Bill was making comment that you're going to replace them with smaller trees and you gave him an education?
Yeah, yeah. They're not going to serve the same function for about 50
That didn't
years.
Yeah.
change that it should be a larger planting?
Even but the biggest you could buy is not going to replace the value of the ones that were taken down for decades, you know?
Well, the original trees were like over 50 years old, weren't they?
Sure.
The age?
Sure,
Yeah.
easily. All right, so anyways, is there anyone else that wants to say anything about 12 Sarah Street? So we have a positive determination. Would you like to review what's said here? Obviously, it means that they have to refile under a notice of intent, a more rigorous process.
Yep, okay. So we're referencing, at the moment, what we have is the civil site plan set for the RDA package for 12 Sarah Street, signed and stamped by Daniel Drajani. So we're going to get new plans in for the whole new process. The applicant removed approximately 8 trees without permission from conservation and was required to submit an RDA for the tree removals and also for grading association with a larger project and for construction of a portion of a pool patio that was to occur in the 100-foot buffer to bordering vegetated wetlands, was to occur. Oh, sorry, never mind. I'll fix it in a minute. Additionally, the applicant proposed to construct a new residence with associated deck, pool, porch, and driveway, and to conduct earthwork and grading, some of which was within the buffer to BVW. Staff became aware trees were cut on the property in October. The applicant did agree to work with the commission and agreed to submit an RDA for restoration rather than receive an enforcement order. It was agreed that provided the house was outside the buffer, that could be permitted under a stormwater permit. The stormwater permit was issued with requirements that soil not be stockpiled within 20 feet of the roadway and that additional erosion controls be added between the house construction and buffer zone. Despite reminders, the RDA was not filed until March. It did show wetland flags. On a site visit with the commissioners, it was noted that the wetland appeared to extend further into the property than shown on the plan, and we subsequently had the flags moved. So some of the house construction, the pool, and the proposed earthwork was located within the 100-foot buffer to BVW. The closest work, the tree removals, was in the BVW, then the pool patio was approximately 70 feet, and the house would be about 90 feet. So the commission is going to find that all trees removed were either within wetland or within the buffer to wetland. Trees were cut without prior approval, and the timing of the cutting coinciding with the proposed construction of residential addition appears to be related to the construction project. Clear cutting in the wetland and buffer and stockpiling in the buffer elevates this project to one that can only adequately be conditioned through an order of conditions that includes a restoration plan. Therefore, the Commission is voting to issue a positive determination of applicability.
All right, so let's see if there's any questions before we vote. Ed or Rob, any further comments on the positive determination? No? Okay. Kent, anything further? Indra, anything further? Bill?
Just one question, how does this affect the actual construction project? Are they allowed to continue with the building of the property or just not do anything in the back until further decision is made?
Well, further to that point, Bill, do we want to, as part of this decision, do we want to, if we're going to allow certain things to continue, do we want to say that the only things we are allowing to continue are? In other words, are we going to allow him to continue pouring the foundation? Maybe it's done.
I think the foundation is done.
Are we going to allow him to, if he's going to pour any more concrete, he was pumping into the wetland? Are we going to tell him he can't do that anymore?
At the moment, nothing is happening. Sorry, what?
I didn't know what he meant pumping water. I thought he meant pumping concrete, sorry.
Oh, okay. And Do we need anything further on the big piles and back? See, I haven't been there since the last time we were there.
They have moved a lot of the big piles. I think that for now, it's stable and it can remain until, if everybody's satisfied, for it to just remain as is. I think it is stable enough to be left while everybody works on what's going to happen next.
That's fine. I mean, I accept your judgment. I'm just asking these things.
I think so.
Do we,
I'd just recommend no further work until there's an order of conditions. The house is in the buffer zone. Staging of building materials will be in the buffer zone. Most likely, there's not enough room in the front to store lumber and stuff. So I would say nothing until the order of conditions is issued.
so he's going to get this and say he has to file. Shouldn't we say that no further work is allowed until he has a order of conditions with a permit? Because he's going to say, he may continue the work, and you're going to say, we didn't want you to continue work. Well, it doesn't say that.
Right, it
I
doesn't say that.
I think it should be mentioned.
Yeah, because if he's doing construction on the house, and to your point, if it's, restriction of that, to like say, just to store lumber or move
Well,
around, that's a valid point.
It does, the last bit that I didn't actually read does say, a notice of intent shall be filed for the proposed work. If a notice of intent is not received within 30 days, the commission may initiate enforcement actions to require restoration of the wetlands and buffer zone. Do we typically add another sentence to say?
Sure, why not? No, just
We
make it
certainly
clear,
can.
No additional work shall occur on site.
Okay,
If he has questions or wants to do something, he can contact the office,
Yeah.
and you can obviously use discretion, whatever.
would that typically go under findings or the decision?
We just certainly don't want them starting to dig a swimming pool or anything until we figure this out.
That should be under decision, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to.
We should have something that's in writing, because otherwise he just said, well, it doesn't say that. I did this, this, and this, because you didn't say it.
Right.
Okay. All right, could I have a motion to issue a positive determination for the 14 Sarah, 12 Sarah Street site under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 and the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? All right, that's 600.
All right, just so you know, I just added a sentence about no further work may be conducted on this property until such time as an order of conditions is issued. Okay?
Thank you. That sounds good.
Would it be helpful to say, I don't mean, that's probably overkill. I was going to say contact conservation, that's probably overkill.
We've been in a lot of touch with them. We're expecting to probably get the notice of intent tomorrow for the next meeting. But we'll send this
He wants
out.
to build
I knew
it,
this was coming.
yeah. And if he's motivated to build, he's going to want to make sure he gets that cleared.
All right, so now we're on item number 6. We have a continued public hearing. This was a notice of intent. The location of the proposed work was 1 Richfield Road. The proponent is Mr. Dan Collins. It's to construct a residential addition. It has a DEP number now. It's 122-699. So please introduce yourself and where you live, and if you'd like to say anything, of course, you can do that.
Thank you very much. I'm Dan Collins. I own 1 Richfield Road with my wife, and we've already been in front of you a few times now on this project, and I don't really have anything to add over the last meeting, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions if any have popped up.
That sounds, brief is good. Okay. Eileen or John, do you have comments on this one?
Not really. Well, I say not really, and then, of course, I give comments. We didn't get to visit it the last time, just because we sort of overlooked it since it had opened, but we were continuing it. So we brought some of the commissioners out this week to take a look, just so you aren't issuing anything without seeing it. And for anybody who didn't see it, I did provide some pictures. This is the wetland sort of at the side of the house. This is the wetland that's been restored, and it's looking really good. This is the channel sort of on the other side of the house. So just to reiterate, it is a pretty tight space that they're working in. They are adding 2 additions, one of which is coming closer than the no-build setback. But they are reducing the impervious overall, and I think that this is about as good a project, about as well designed a project as it can be. And they're also proposing to do some restoration plantings as well at the side. Did I miss anything?
We had already done some restoration plantings in the back, and so we'll be just adding, I think, we decided on 20 plants that'll go along the other side of where the wetlands are that would be disturbed.
Right, and those will be native, so he'll work with us or work with his wetland scientist to choose something, put in something appropriate.
It's just a few feet away from where the current driveway is now, but is going to be where the driveway is being pulled back after the construction.
And as it turns out, just looking at this again, the new addition is about the same distance from the wetland as the current house is actually from the existing stream.
Okay,
So it's not-
my recollection is that there was nothing further the applicant needed to
They were not asked to
provide us.
provide anything else.
Okay. All right,
If I may make a comment before we start.
yes.
Since the last meeting, I have signed a contract with Mr. Pinney to do work on my property. So I am now going to recuse myself from any discussion on this project, since
Because he's the one that designed this project.
he's the designer of
He was
this.
very helpful, so you're in good hands.
Thank you. Glad to hear that. I did have one general question that doesn't relate to the project in particular. And there's a statement in here that, in the respect to having a waiver, that the house is no closer than the existing shed, which is way closer. Is that a legitimate comparison, or does the house have to be no closer than the house?
That may have been holdover from something else. I'll change it to house because it is, the existing house is about the same distance anyway. I'll just,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, the shed
Is
is
that-
closer, but I'll change
Would
it to
that be a
house.
legitimate statement if somebody had a shed 10 feet from their wetland, but the house was going to go from, 40 to 35? They would say, well, it's no closer than the
I
shed.
think under the circumstances, we can just switch it. We can just change that a little if that's okay with
Not
you.
relating to
I
this
think
project.
you
at all,
have
just
done
in
that
general.
before.
I think we have because
Yeah,
it
have
came
done
from
that,
something
where
else.
they were-
Compared it to
They
any
were
existing structure.
Removing
Okay.
other structures, yeah.
I mean, when we get to that point, you can tell me if you want to change it, but it is a structure.
One more question. The proposed back of it is a few feet into the no-build zone, is that correct?
Not the back, but the front, actually.
The front?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
the
There's-
back, yeah, it is.
the back corner, I
The
thought.
back corner, sort of the house he's saying is
The back
Well, here. It's
Both
close.
of them are.
Yeah,
They're both,
that's true, they both are.
but the one in the front is
Yeah,
probably not.
so
much.
Oh, I
there's-
see, the one that's even closer, that's.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I thought the one you were talking about was in the front. There's like a sliver triangle in the front.
All right, so we should vote a waiver, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I was trying to ask.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Got it.
All right, so was there, everyone spoke, we're all set? This is a hearing, is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a statement about 1 Richfield Road?
I had opened them.
All right, that does not appear to be the case. So let's, Mr. Collins, has Mr. Collins seen a draft of the decisions yet?
He received it.
I was
so-
emailed the drafts earlier.
Do you want to have a draft? Maybe we have a spare draft for you to look at, or you're all set?
I've already been flipping
You're
through
all
it.
set.
You can also
I'm
go on my
comfortable
shoulder
with
while
it, and
We're
I've,
going to review it, but I didn't want to, if you hadn't seen it, that's not,
I have seen this, yes.
okay.
Thank
all
you.
right,
We
okay.
usually forward it along in case
All
there's
right.
anything egregious.
All right, so therefore, could I have a motion, therefore, to close the hearing on DEP file number 122-699?
So moved.
Second. Second. Okay, all those in favor? 5-0, are you abstaining?
I'm going to abstain, yeah.
501, okay. Now, do you want to review the document, Eileen?
If you want, I can do it fairly briefly. He has seen it.
He's seen it, if it's not necessary, then we can, if he's, okay.
I didn't have any objections to it.
We can just
in
move
my
ahead then.
View of it, but
Okay, so we are saying I'm just seeing if there's anything here that you do need to go over.
And the commission got it ahead of time, so,
I guess not really on the bylaw decision. It's all very straightforward and standard, if you prefer to leave it. Bonds, thank you. Bond is 2,500, I think.
right.
Yes, John
Okay,
said
so
25.
I guess what I'm asking, Eileen,
Yep,
since he's seen it, and the commission has seen it,
yep.
is there anything that should be discussed at all? Any points that you think need to be
No,
brought
I'm
up?
just scrolling through now just to see if there was anything. No, we talk about stormwater management being, it infiltrated into stone trenches, and the remaining driveway shall be pervious material. 20 non-native shrubs shall be planted on site, and species and location shall be determined in consultation with conservation staff and/or with his wetland scientist. And then the rest are standard, so
Right.
apart from that, just
Okay.
reiteration.
All right. Okay, so therefore, could I have a motion to approve the findings under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-699?
Move.
Second?
Second, Kent.
All in favor? 501, it carries. Could I have a motion to approve the order of conditions for DEP file number 122-, no, first, next I will do the waiver. Could I have a motion to do a waiver of the 40-foot, for the intrusion into the 40-foot no-build zone? The nature, because the nature of the project is such that the applicant is actually reducing impervious surface. Could I have that motion, please?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 501. Could I have a motion to approve the order of conditions for 1 Richfield Road under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 and the State Wetlands Protection Act for DEP file number 122-699? Second?
Second, Kent.
All in favor? 501. And finally, there's a cash performance guarantee that is typical of a small residential project, suggested in the amount of $2,500. Could I have a motion to put it on the floor for $2,500 for a cash performance guarantee under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for the project at 1 Richfield Road, DEP file number 122-699?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion on this? I always ask, just in case. All right, all in favor? 501.
All set?
Good luck with your project.
All right. Thank you very much for all your help.
Yes.
You'll receive this next.
And Dan, your engineer put a very attractive picture on the documentation.
Well, it looks very, those photos there are all, they haven't grown up yet for the season, but he took those pictures before the winter.
It looks very lush. It made me want to go have a picnic there.
Well, you're welcome when the project is done. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. All right. Let's pass this over, Andrew, please. Okay. All right, so next we're going to skip down to, actually, item number 8.
Just want to repeat about 7.
Yeah, item number 7, we are passing it over, and will not be opened, the hearing will not be opened for 54 Francis Wyman Road until our next meeting, which is April 25th. All right, so item number 8 is a notice of a hearing. Okay, notice is given of a public hearing being held by the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission. The purpose of the hearing is to take all information related to a notice of intent filed by FK Partners Burlington LLC for the proposed renovation and partial demolition of the Kent Cottage and construction of 9 residential condominiums at 225 Middlesex Turnpike in Burlington. The proposed work would be within the riverfront area and 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands Pursuant to the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14, the commission will be reviewing information relative to the application and may issue an order of conditions or in a Burlington Wetlands permit for this project. Anyone may view the entire application by going to the Conservation Commission website and pressing on the appropriate link, and all the documentation has been posted there. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Enright, and I am a civil engineer with Howard Stein Hudson. My office is in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. And I'm here tonight with Jay Finnegan, who is the builder of FK Builders of this project. So I think some of you probably, I was here many, many years ago, and I believe it was 2016, with what we called an Evotext project at this site. Finally, we've made it back with a project we think will succeed this time, which is obviously very important. The Evotext project, essentially, we went through all of the approvals, and the owners of that office building or that business decided to walk away. So since then, Nordblom's been working with different developers to try to find something that's economically viable for the site. They were before the town a couple of years ago to ask that the town update the PDD zoning for this site to allow for residential up to 9 units. Mr. Finnegan has since gotten an agreement with Nordblom, and we're here tonight with a fully engineered plan set for 9 townhome units. The project itself sits within essentially the same footprint as the previous project. If you remember this site, I think you're working on bringing it up right now.
It was open too long, it had lost half.
Oh,
its-
no, okay.
It says, oh, we can't open these things anymore.
Okay. The site itself, although this is just sort of the image of the buildable area, is almost 21 acres. It goes from Middlesex Turnpike all the way to Middlesex Turnpike Extension. It's a huge, huge site. The developable area is about 50,000 square feet, and that's because when the site was created under the original PDD, most of it's been put in a conservation restriction already. So there's a conservation restriction that sits on the site. The developable area of the site is bound by that, and also our wetland and riverfront buffers. So if you walk around sort of the edge of the development plan, what we're looking at is either the CR restricts us, or the 20-foot no disturb, or the 50-foot no structure is what really controls the whole project in and of itself. So this is the existing conditions of the site. Obviously, it's since 2016 was a pretty significant time ago. We had the wetlands reflagged by the same consultant that did it previously, so we had Oxbow go out there and reflag the BVW. There is an isolated wetland, and then there's also riverfront area associated with Vine Brook, and then the other brook that's on the site is associated with your local regulatory streams of Burlington, so it also has a riverfront area. There's only a small area, essentially smack right in front of the Kent Cottage, that doesn't fall within a buffer zone of the river or the wetland area on the site. As part of the previous application and this application, most of you probably have only seen the stone part of the Kent Cottage, but behind it is kind of an ugly concrete block structure that was added onto it. When we were here previously, and previously I had met with the Historic Commission, which the project will meet again with them next week informally, it was understood that that was going to come down, that there was no need to keep that portion of the structure. So as we move forward, we're moving forward with the stone building, or the front part of the Kent Cottage. It's in even more disrepair, if you can believe it, than it was in 2016. The inside is a mess. And so essentially what we're doing is reconstructing the exterior. And what we're doing is putting 2 residential units within that structure. So 2 townhome units, each of them would have 2 bedrooms. And then what we're doing here, this is the layout plan, is we're creating essentially a little residential neighborhood out of the Kent Cottage. So some of the logistics around this, obviously we're not moving the Kent Cottage, it's there. It's at an elevation, it's there. How do we kind of get everything around it? So the previous application, we had one large glass structure that attached to it. not trying to mimic the Kent Cottage, but in contrast to it and sort of showcasing the Kent Cottage, and then parking lots on the front and the side. By creating it as a residential use, what we're able to do is sort of create this little neighborhood. And some of the ways that this is laid out has been driven by, obviously, some of the other boards and commissions that we've talked to and sort of historically about this project. But one of them being that traffic circulation around the site, we want it at the furthest points that we're able to really develop and build to keep people moving in a one-way direction, and so that nobody's going to be able to come out and cross over Middlesex Turnpike and try to take a left out of here. It's right in, right out. One way. It also helps us to keep the amount of pavement we're adding to a minimum in areas where we're not parking. We're looking at 20 feet width of pavement to keep it essentially able to be used by a fire truck, essentially around the whole project, and certainly some of the interior radiuses too. What we also wanted to do was kind of keep that courtyard and keep the view shed of the Kent Cottage kind of being front and center. Obviously, understanding all the restrictions we have around the exterior of the project, so what we've proposed is 3 duplex units, so 2 townhouses together in 3 units, and then right next to and sort of off to the side, a single unit. So there's 7 additional units being added to the 2 that would be placed in the Kent Cottage. What this does is it creates a nice view shed and sort of showcases that old structure in the middle and allows us to create a common area for the residents that we didn't have to look for previously when it was an office building. Keeping the pavement around the exterior, I mean, because of the grade differentials and because of the proximity to the buffer zones, essentially there's a wall that buffers us from the resource areas around the entire piece of property. So what we've looked at is a retaining wall that's up to 4 feet in height. We wanted to keep it as low as possible, obviously to not meet the requirements for a structure, but also just to keep things low, keep things as close to grade as we possibly could. Parking for the site is, there's 2 spaces under each of the buildings, so there's not a lot of surface parking, which cuts down on stormwater management and concerns related to parking. We do have 1 space outside each of the doors as you come around the project for just simplicity if somebody were to pop in for a visit or drop something off or have a delivery. And then there's 7 spaces at the back corner of the project. We're also working, because this is really an isolated site, we're working with a traffic engineer to create a way to cross the street so that people can have some walkability to the amenities that are near and in the district. So there will also be that, and that's currently being worked on. The drainage for the site is very similar to what I had proposed before. We kept essentially the same area for the infiltration. We had done testing with your Board of Health. The water table was very deep. We actually didn't encounter it when we were doing our soil testing, and what was there is sand. So what we've done here is created a system of 2 catch basins. We're using a CDS unit, and we're also using an R-tank configuration with also a wrapped R-tank section, which allows for TSS removal. Also, because we're doing so much infiltration, it takes care of our phosphorus requirement too. And then there's also a small drain sort of in the courtyard that'll capture the drainage that comes into the courtyard. And then all of the roof drains are going to be connected to the underground system also. So the roof drains, the clean roofs will be connected into the drainage system and run into that infiltration area also. Trees, there are some trees within the site. I know we looked at them when we were there last time. There's like this row of pines that sort of sits outside of the forested area. That would come down, yeah, if you could go back to the demo plan just briefly. Sorry, I skipped you through. And then there's some tree line on the right-hand side or the western side of the project, some tree line to the north, and some tree line to the east that we're trimming as it encroaches within the CR or within the buffer zones on those sides. The rest of the site is pretty much lawn right now with some concrete in front of the Kent Cottage, and it's a maintained lawn, so it's mowed by Nordblom and essentially kept up, as there's a lot of people that pass by there every day. Besides that, we did provide you with a narrative regarding our riverfront alternatives analysis. You'll notice it's pretty similar to the one we did previously. We're about the same impervious as we were when we were here before with the office building. as far as the addition of impervious to the park. I believe we're about just over 31,000 square feet of impervious for the total site construction that we're looking to add. We do have a floodplain on the site. We're not working within the floodplain on the site. We are outside the 100-foot riverfront area. We are outside the no disturb and the no structure setbacks. And then there is now a habitat area that exists on this site. We're touching it when you bring it in and overlay the line work essentially within this site. We're just touching about 900 square feet, right where that double catch basin is in the corner. And your future plans will have that. That line didn't get turned on for some reason in this set. It's been put on the plans, and we have sent it to Natural Heritage. Sorry, Natural Heritage. So it's been mailed to them, and they reached out to us, obviously, through you, John, and through Kristen, who had put her email on there, and we've sent them PDFs to follow up with the hard copies that they received. So we'll be looking for information from them. We did go to Board of Health on Tuesday night and got approval from the Board of Health. This is our first night, obviously, with the commission. We have a meeting next week with Historic, and then Planning Board starts next Thursday. So no revisions have been made to the plans yet. When I checked DEP sites, we don't have a DEP file number yet or comments. And I know John had mentioned when we were at the department head meeting earlier this week that we should probably get a site walk scheduled prior to the next meeting, as we weren't able to do it yesterday before this meeting. We'll be able to get the gate taken down prior to the next hearing so that we'll be able to walk it. And I can see if I can have our wetland scientist on site for that walk too. Trying to see if I forgot anything. Yeah, I'd be happy to walk through. Certainly, I have a lot of more information in this plan set regarding lighting, landscaping. Again, this is our first hearing. We haven't even been to the planning board yet, so I'd like to hear any questions, comments, or concerns this commission has tonight.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll make a list of comments that might require some feedback, in writing, and we'll go through it at the end.
Sure.
Same procedure as, 7 years ago? Okay, we haven't changed much.
Okay.
Okay. So obviously, we don't expect you to thoroughly answer each question right at this moment. That's not required, but we want to get it out on the table.
Sure. No, I appreciate that.
All right, so John or Eileen, you going to take it, John?
Sure, I'll take it. So that was a good presentation. It was pretty comprehensive, and I think that probably most people are probably pretty excited to see this site finally, something done with it. It's been sitting there since long before I even got here 22 years ago, so, it's good to see something happening. One thing I don't think Katie mentioned was the performance standards for riverfront. So part of this is in the riverfront. None of it is, so the performance standards say you have to stay out of the inner 100 feet. They're staying out of the inner 100 feet. You can alter 5,000 square feet or 10% of the riverfront area, whichever is greater. They have an enormous riverfront area on this lot because the lot's 20-some-odd acres.
20.9 acres.
Yeah, so, they're not coming anywhere near 10% riverfront alteration. So that's one thing. The site visit, we'll try to schedule our regular Wednesday site visits before the next meeting. It's starting to look like we're going to have several of them, so we might need to start a little earlier, but we'll try to coordinate it so we can drive into the site. They'll take the chain down because I don't want people running across Middlesex Turnpike, parking across the street. Additionally, we have not had a chance to go out and field check the delineation, and I'd also like to coordinate that with Oxbow, not with you guys, but just with staff and Oxbow to go out and walk the wetland line prior to the next meeting. I tried to go to the New Jersey testing site to get information on the Ferguson R-tank, and I got some security warning from my computer said, don't download this is dangerous. So if you could provide us the sheets on that.
On what?
Not familiar. So under the parking lot in the rear, actually it shows on that plan, there's a giant, fairly sizable underground tank, which is doing peak storage, mitigation and infiltration both. So it's a big tank that infiltrates.
Is that that shaded area in the
Yes.
upper right part of the
Yep.
drawing?
Yep.
And then it has an overflow to the right with a flared end and some riprap on the right-hand side. But so that's a structure that I'm not familiar with, so,
Well, I was going to ask her a little bit more detail how that works,
Yeah.
what they're doing.
but I know it has been reviewed by the New Jersey testing, so Mass DEP no longer does testing of those sort of things, and they sort of rely on the New Jersey people to test it, so there is a report on it, I know that. And the other thing I know, Eileen had questions maybe about the phosphorus calculations, maybe.
Yeah, it just seemed to say in the, I only fairly quickly went through the stormwater costs, it just sort of said it deals with phosphorus, but I didn't see how. I'd like to see the BATT, see it input into something that I can actually understand.
Oh, okay, sure.
Or maybe whatever you provide from that tank will do it, but I didn't get it from that.
Okay. It's equal to essentially the infiltration under the outlet, as far as 1 inch of impervious, 1 inch over all the impervious surface, and then whatever is infiltrated is said to capture that. But I'm familiar with the BATT software too, and we can show it that way too.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
So I would also encourage you, if you need to explain anything, you can certainly go up to the drawing and point for clarity from us, because
Oh, sure.
it's pretty far away from us.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Also, just a little bit about our tanks are essentially, they're pretty interesting, because they're basically like, almost like crates, like plastic crates that stack together. And so what's great about them is it's very open. So you don't have to when you're dealing with the arch, you have a volume under the arch, and then you have the stone above and below. When you're dealing with these crates, the R tanks, they're essentially plastic crates, so you're getting basically a rectangle or a box, a 3D.
Just like milk crates from Target?
It looks like it could be that, yeah. And you basically stack them, and you stack them next to each other, and they create
And they have a porous bottom,
They have a porous bottom.
and they're filled with stone?
Nope, they're open.
Okay, so
There's
what's
stone
the...
around them.
So, since we're on this now,
Yeah.
for the benefit of the commission, what is the purpose of this structure? Is it to take clean
Infiltration.
water? Is it to take water off the parking lot as well, stormwater?
Right, so all of the devices that we're using to collect stormwater end here. And so it's basically the same thing you'd see if you saw a storm tech system or a pipe and stone system. It's an infiltration system. It's just what it does is it takes the smallest footprint possible, because you're not losing out on any of the curvature of, say, like the pipe, and then you're only getting 40% of the stone. It's basically open as far as the boxes that go together. And so there is a section, though, that the pipe that comes from the double catch basin comes into that part of the system. It comes into an area of part of the BMP that basically there's a section of these crates that are wrapped in filter fabric, and so that additional sediment can settle out in that row. So it's similar to an isolator row you see with a storm tech. It's similar to that, in that you wrap it and the sediment falls out in that area.
Right, we may come back to that, so
Sure.
the commissioners may have questions on it.
Sure.
So there's actually...
one question, so it's plastic, but it's safe to drive over, it's under a parking lot.
Yeah,
So it's
100%.
scheduled for you.
Yep.
There's actually 360 of these in this particular...
Yep.
They're not giant, they're fairly small.
They're not giant. There are different sizes, but they're pretty small, yeah. And they're stacked vertically and across horizontally. So if you look at the detail sheet from the plan set, has sort of a detail of how they're put together.
Well, let's go back to John first. John, is there anything further at this point? All right, so let's start with Ed. Do you have any either comment or question, or we can go back to you if you'd like?
The actual, excuse me, the actual road going around, what's the surface on that?
The driveway itself is pavement.
You go right up to the garage doors of each unit with the pavement?
With the pavement, that's correct.
Have you considered pavers or anything like that? The reason I say is, I found it to be really useful where I am over at the reserve at Seven Springs. And when that water comes running around the road and just happens to hit the driveways, it's gone. Just curious. It's not something that's what to be expected.
Is that the fireway you're talking about? Behind your building to the, further down, there's like a fire access, and I think they made it out of pervious pavers? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
well, like that, but we all have pavers in front of our garage doors.
Oh, you do?
When it
Are
rains
they
really
per- are
hard,
they
the
pervious?
road is water.
Are they pervious?
Yep.
Do you know if they have the full profile of like a porous pavement application under them?
Yeah.
They do? Okay.
So have they deteriorated? That development's been there a
No,
while.
I mean, after 10 years, it still works. I'm kind of amazed, to tell you the truth. I've never seen that before.
Is that something you would consider at least looking at?
We could look at alternative materials for in front of the garage doors, yeah.
Okay.
The water never makes it to the garage door. That's the key.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Rob?
So I guess the conservation restriction line, is that, I think on like the, sort of like the 50-foot, like there's so many sort of lines coming through. Is that the 50-foot no build line? I think it's on a yellow dashed line on the site plan, page 2. It sort of goes around the outer of the, maybe like the inner part of the ring road.
So the conservation restriction, no, is outside of the limit of work, so they're not doing any work within the conservation restriction at all.
But it's roughly like where the,
This line here,
okay.
it is super confusing because there's a million.
Yeah, there's a number.
But it
Okay,
doesn't
we do.
fall on top exactly any of the buffer zone lines. It's its own, it's the straight line here that comes up from the street and it makes these straight lines connections around the property.
Okay, so then in the sort of the surrounding, there's the like conservation restriction line, and then around, sort of around that as well, there's the 100-year floodplain is sort of in that same sort of area, in the outer part. And then, I guess there's, and you said that you're gonna go out and check the, sort of the wetlands on either side?
And the
As well.
riverfront, so there's two rivers. So there's bank flags on both. Fine Brook to the upper right, and to the left is the unnamed stream, which apparently, at least according to the wetland scientist report, is intermittent on this portion of the site, then flows into a pond and then becomes perennial when it comes out of the pond. But it's regulated as a regulatory stream under our bylaw. But so, yeah, we need to check the bank flags and the bordering vegetated wetland flags.
Yeah, and then it looks too that there's some, at least the existing structure now is somewhere around something like, I don't know, it's like, was it 130 or 139 feet? And then there's some fill going in towards like, some like level grading towards the outer part of the road as well, it looked like on the development plan.
Am I on the right plan? Do you want me to go to a different?
Yeah, I think in this one, I think you can, the
You want this one? Sorry. Okay.
contour versus the, I think in the developed, it's flatter.
It is,
Right?
and
Like
so.
there's some grading in there, but that sort of is going to be sort of out of, I guess it's in the, maybe the 500, but not in the 100, but it's small.
Right, so the 100-foot floodplain, right, the 100-year floodplain is elevation, I believe it's 123.
Okay, 120. Yeah, it looked like around 123, 120.
Yeah, it's 123 based on the FEMA map.
Yeah.
And then, so what we're doing is the project itself, so the road is at elevation about 136 in front of the
Yeah,
site.
it's 135, 136,
The
yeah.
Kent Cottage is about 131 and a half.
Yeah.
And so we're coming in, and right now it dives, you can see the contours, how close they are together. It dives down from the road, but we can't bring a driveway in at that slope. And so what we've done is we've spaced those contours out and basically added fill so that as we're going towards the back of the site,
Yeah.
again, I think we're at about a 3-foot wall back there, so there is some fill, but it's basically to create, again, it's to kind of get rid of that sort of steepish slope down
From the
and spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, possibly out. Because I think particularly it's the, to the left, about 200 feet away there, that's where sort of the closest sort of stream is, I think. Like the closest water.
It is, yep.
Site is like kind of the smaller one that goes, like, crosses perpendicular Middlesex Turnpike over.
Right, yep, that's the intermittent one that's located on the local inventory.
Yeah, okay.
Is over there. The other, Vinebrook is like way up, kind of to the top off the page.
Yeah, that was one from the,
Right.
further back.
Yes.
Can I just suggest maybe it might be a good idea if you could give us a color copy with like, it's probably going to take 12 different colors. Color the riverfront area, color the conservation restriction, all of these lines, different colors, just on the grading and drainage plan, so we can give it to these guys.
If I even I started with that type of plan when I started looking at how this would lay out. So yeah, no, absolutely, 100%, we can go back to that.
All right.
If I can just comment on something Rob said about the conservation restriction to make sure it's understood. A conservation restriction, it's kind of like a conservation area. Nothing can be done in there. But the difference is a conservation area is owned by the Conservation Commission, but a conservation restriction, the original owner maintains it, but has agreed in perpetuity on the deed that this area cannot be developed, and they get some benefit of some tax abatements or whatever for doing that, I would think. So that's what the restriction is. So nothing can be done outside that line.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And the Conservation Commission is the holder of the restriction, so you're the ones that enforce that restriction.
So it's effectively a conservation area, just under different ownership.
Okay, so let's, are you done?
I think too, I had just a couple, there was something like, I think with the R tank, and there was something called, I think one of the drainage, 201S, it said something like sort of like possible discharge into wetland areas, but I wasn't sure, that might be.
Where are you talking on the plan?
I think this was in the description of the HydroCAD, I think.
Yep.
There was, I think for the R tank, there was something about like the removal of the sediment, something that was like, it could be pumped out or it could be discharged. And then I think there was one of the, so I think, sorry.
That was the treatment area that's wrapped. So there's basically a section of the R tank where we'll call them crates. The crates are wrapped on the outside with filter fabric, very similar to an isolator or a storm check. And so basically this flow that goes through this deep sump to the catch basin comes straight into the R tanks, goes into that section so that all the sediment will drop out there. And that has to be maintained by essentially flushing it, blocking the end, and basically sucking all the sediment out at the end when it reaches a certain level. So it's in the operation and maintenance plan to do that. The other side here goes through this, all of these are collected and go through a CDS unit, which is a hydrodynamic separator, before it goes into this end, which we're not wrapping, the ones on this end also. And then the overflow from this comes out here.
Where is that separator?
Yeah.
Here.
Right there,
So
okay.
it's DMH2,
Right here.
CDS,
Right here.
Okay.
-4.
Right here.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Okay, and that's feeding water from that side of the site?
This side of the site goes through the CDS unit and then into the R.
And that is a,
It's
like,
a hydrodynamic separator.
a cyclonic separator?
Right, so it spans.
And it has a bypass for high flow?
Right, it has a bypass for high flow, right, because
Okay.
it's basically what it's doing is getting the first flush, that's where all the.
Right,
stuff's gonna be. So,
sure.
yeah, so it'll grab that there, and then the clean water goes into the R tank system.
Right,
But
okay,
that's after it passes through your deep sump catch basin.
okay, okay.
And
Let's,
then when this fills up, it empties over here, and this is above the 100-year floodplain elevation, so that the water won't
Yeah.
get back into it.
And what actually controls the phosphorus levels
So the phosphorus comes out when you infiltrate the water.
through the infiltration into the ground, so the natural bacteria and stuff?
yeah. All right, let's first go to Ken. You have anything on this one?
It's your cottage, Kent, you must have some questions.
I'm the special one tonight. I was just curious, like, how big are all the, like, I see there's like the original Kent Cottage, and then there's like 7 other units. Like, what's the proposed, like, square footage? Like, are they all going to be the same size? Are they going to be?
Yes, so the rest of the units, the proposed units are each 24 by 38, I believe. Let me just grab my notes on that. And they are, 24 by 38 each of them. And then they're 3 stories. So,
And then the parking, I was just curious, like you said, it's what, going to be 32 spots?
32, so there's 2 on the first floor of each of these units. So
Big garage.
it's 3 stories basically at grade. There might be a little bit of separation between like the door and the garage floor, but you come in the back of the unit and there's 2 parking spaces. And then there's a little study in the front where you would come in sort of the front door that faces the common area, and then you would come up to like the first floor of living, and then there'd be a second floor of living above that.
So each unit would have 2 parking spots, and then there's going to be assorted parking around for guests, I'm assuming?
Well, and yeah, so what we did, because it's one way, it essentially acts like, sort of like a main street. And so what we did was, because each of the buildings is 24 feet wide, we positioned, if you look at the layout plan, we have basically parallel spaces in front of the door, because this is one way all the way around. So say you parked, you had somebody stopping by, whether it's UPS or the pizza guy, or your daughter comes to visit or something, they can easily parallel park right in the space in front of the doors, and you're blocking the 2 doors, but it's a visitor or a brief visit or a place to have a third car. If you're gonna have a party or something, you'd have them park back here in these 7 spots. So the concern was here with the parking, and the reason we have 32 spaces versus just 18 spaces is because there's no really easy way or place to put people if they came to visit. So like, you can't park, you're not parking on Middlesex Turnpike, and if you go across to Blue Sky Drive, you've got a pretty long walk until you get to a parking space. Plus, there is no way to cross there now, so we're gonna be adding in reflective beacons, and a crosswalk there, but again, it's pretty far away, so there's not really another, and then it's like 1,000 feet in each direction till you get to civilization on either side of the net. So it's a long way to go to have to find a parking space. So we wanted to make sure that we had adequate parking for each of the individuals, and that if somebody had guests over or a party or something, that there was sort of an extra little lot off to the side. And what we did by doing that is in those areas, we open it up to 24 feet just for that brief little section, so that they can have the ability to back out and keep going in a forward motion.
So is the section in the back, like on the Kent Cottage, like the part that's, I haven't been back there in a while, but I know like the section that was added, is that you're ripping out? Is that all going to become parking, like basically where the
No, that's pretty much in this area here, because this is the outline of the existing Kent Cottage, the stone part. So that part like kind of sticks out here. So a lot of it's actually going to be lawn.
Oh, okay.
Or landscape area. Unit 5 probably is going to fall a little bit into it back here, and then there's the probably part of the sidewalk and the road that goes around too. So it kind of has a weird, if you look at the existing conditions, plan kind of has this weird little angle in the back that's all concrete block.
When you said the retaining wall 4 feet is going around the whole with like a guardrail,
It's
like
like-
how high is the guardrail going to be?
It's 0 to 4, and then there's guardrail inside of it around the whole, basically around the whole project also.
How high is the guard, like the same level as the retaining wall, or is it going to be?
No, it'll be a little bit higher.
A little bit higher,
So
okay.
the standard guardrail, yeah, I have to look at the exact
Okay.
dimension, but standard guardrail around there. We tried to keep it at 4-foot max, so we tried to like kind of keep it to as close to the exterior as possible. But it also provides a very defined stopping point too before nobody's gonna want to wander off into, I think, the resource areas with that boundary in place too.
Okay. All set, thank you, Kent. Indra?
Okay, did you do any test pits?
What's that?
Test pits?
Test pits, yes. So there's test pits right in the area. There's one exactly in the area of the infiltration system and one just to the side. And those were done when we were here with Evotext and witnessed by the Board of Health.
And there would be a 2-foot difference between the bottom of the...
There's 2 feet difference between the bottom of the pit where we didn't find water and the bottom of the system. Actually, 2.5. So we excavated to elevation 120, and we saw no evidence of water, and these start at 122.5.
Let's follow up on that, Indra. Could you clarify the distance to the estimated seasonally high groundwater level?
Yeah, I believe it was 128 inches. Is that on yours?
That was a good question.
Yeah, it's actually right on the side of the sheet.
Water level
Of
goes
the
up
sheet.
in the
The
wet
sheet.
season.
Yeah, if you zoom out a little bit,
So how much clearance is there to that level, is what the question is?
there's 2.5 feet from the bottom of the pit, and we didn't find water to the bottom of the system. So there's more than 2.5 feet of water.
Got it. Okay, and the soils were read for evidence of seasonally high groundwater?
Right, redox features.
You did though, okay,
Yeah.
that was the question. All
Are
right.
you looking, do you want me to get onto a different sheet? I'm not sure what it's on.
And then it's
Oh,
right
here,
under the
got
notes,
it.
right here.
Right.
And so the redox feature, so you can see, we didn't see redox features.
Right.
So here you can see loamy sand, coarse sand, fine sand. You can see the color variations we took from Munsell.
Sure.
And we did not see any
Right.
evidence of
Got it.
water in either of those. We had 93 inches here, 96 inches here.
Right.
The starting elevation was
So
1.
when did you do the test pits?
We did them in May of 2015.
In May.
So, and it doesn't matter because we're looking for, well, May is a good time to do them anyway because it is still pretty wet, but we're looking for evidence that the water sits there
Right.
for a majority or.
Yeah, seasonal maximum groundwater.
Right, and so there wasn't any evidence. And it was witnessed by Christine Adams.
Right, and it's noted here on the plan too, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you said there is no change in impervious area, or is
It's about the same as the impervious area that we proposed before. There's significantly more impervious area than exists there today. Because the Kent Cottage in and of itself, I think, is about 1,500 square feet. And then obviously, there's a small area of concrete in front of it, and then the rest of it is just maintained lawn.
And I know you said the roof runoff. What are you doing with the roof runoff from all the buildings?
It's being collected and put underground to the same infiltration area. So the clean runoff is being collected at the building, and it's being piped over to that,
To the
to the infiltration.
infiltration system? So, John, you said it's a riverfront area, and it's less than 10% improvement here, or alterations?
Right, the riverfront area, I can't remember, it's nowhere near 10%. It's, the riverfront area is enormous on this. It's on the NOI application.
It's basically 10% of 21 acres.
It's
For the most
it's
part.
nowhere near 10%. It's-
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, I guess we're on Bill.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm looking at the drainage plan, and I know you said all the rooftops are going to be collected into the infiltration chamber, but I don't see any connection to
Not the Kent. Not the
what's
Kent.
happening with the Kent.
So the Kent's going to just overflow onto the ground,
Okay.
and will be collected by the drainage system.
Is the Kent building also going to have 2 parking units underneath for each unit?
No, so we've attached a structure to the side of it, down below, on the right-hand side there, that acts as essentially a garage for those 2 units.
Is that what that other rectangle is?
Yeah, that rectangle right there, yep,
Okay, and that's a covered garage or
correct.
4 cars, 2 for each unit?
3.
3.
There's 3 there, and then, right, they have a space, they can go across the street to get another space
They're
there.
right-
So
right there
it's just a
from-
little more difficult, and those 2 units have 2 bedrooms instead of 3 bedrooms in them, just because of the size and shape of the structure itself.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to see more information on that Ferguson tank as well. I am not familiar with it. The common area, I'm trying to find the planting plan again here. It's not clear to me what the planting is for, like that, what is that triangle going to be for a surface?
Right, so that's lawn in the
All lawn.
triangle, that's all lawn.
Okay.
But I will do a better job of sort of hatching and describing the grass areas. Also, we need to put a seed mixture, I noticed, around the exterior of the site also to help that kind of renaturalize. So I'm going to be
Yep.
talking to the landscape architect about that, too.
So there's lawn in that triangle, and then below that, and the rest of, between that and Middlesex Turnpike, that common area is lawn mostly as
Right,
well?
with plantings, shrubs and trees, right?
Yeah, so that will all be pervious, which is good. I know you're taking down a number of trees. Have you determine whether you're replacing as many as you're taking down, or more or less?
I don't believe so. We have 14 trees, and I believe there's close to 18 or 19 that we're showing sort of standalone, so we could certainly look at that if,
It's nice to have that documented, to make sure you're at least doing a one-to-one replacement
Sure.
on that. And the fact that you said it's removed from civilization, I think, is one of the benefits of living there, in some sense. That's all I have. I'm glad to see it finally going to be brought back to life.
Okay,
And one more. How do you plan snow removal?
right, so most of it's going to have to come off. There's not much room to put it. Certainly, we're not dumping it to the outside, right? And so there are some areas located on the layout materials plan for snow removal. Certainly, those 7 spaces are excess spaces that we don't need that drain into the drainage system for temporary storage, and then it'll be taken off-site. So that's what in our, I believe in our long-term pollution prevention plan, we provide a section on snow storage. Basically, it's being stockpiled for smaller storms and taken off. There's no place to put it.
That's been a problem for us, same exact thing. We're starting now to consider removal, just truck it out.
Yeah.
There's just no place to put it.
So it might be residential, but it's probably similar to like a, say like not Wegmans or something where you don't have a ton, where they're gonna have to truck it off long-term.
Right.
Like you'd have like spaces to Ed's point, they would be temporarily, but in bigger storms, you'd have to like basically truck it off-site.
Right, and they'll be, because each of these will be owned by a different, basically, each of these are going to be owned, there'll be an association associated with that, so they'll have a maintenance company that will come and take care of the snow for them.
So be some type of like HOA thing or something?
They'll
Okay.
probably, yeah, there'll be an HOA and,
Yeah, so be tied into their like.
right, the
Okay.
landscaping, the
Yep.
stormwater maintenance, right?
okay, a couple of points. I see here something called AD1. What is that?
Where are you?
Right in the middle of the triangle.
It's a yard drain.
Oh, it's a yard drain, it's an area drain.
That's a yard drain, that's what I
Yes.
thought you were, okay.
Yep,
And that is collecting water off the surface of the grass
correct.
and feeding it into a drainage manhole number 1,
Right, and then to the CDS unit.
then to the what?
The CDS unit?
CDS unit. That's the big square?
No, it's the circle, it's the other DMH that calls out, it's a CDS, so
It's a
that's the
hydrodynamic
hydrodynamic separator.
Is that this? Separator. Right here?
Yep, there you are.
Essentially a storm scepter. It's another brand.
Could you point to it, please? I'm trying, is it this one or this one?
So this is gonna go to here, this drainage manhole.
Right.
We're gonna drain, go to here, and then it's gonna go down to this manhole here, which is DMH2, which is the CDS unit.
DMH2 is what it's labeled as,
That right next to it says the CDS.
and that's a separator.
It's a separator. Well, it
Yeah.
says CDS unit right here.
Next to the word DMS2.
Maybe, oh, CDS unit, oh, okay. All right, I saw DMH2, I didn't read the CDS.
And then, yeah, then it goes into.
So it's like a cyclone separator. It is.
Storm scepter, yeah,
okay.
vortex, there's.
So what I gather is that the rooftop runoff from unit 1, 2 goes to the DMH1, and then the units 3 and 4 also go to DMH1. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then that feeds over into DMH2 and CDS2, which is inside there.
CDS, yeah.
And that feeds into the infiltration.
Correct.
And then Unit 5 seems to feed into DCB2 up the top.
Yeah, 5 is going, because it's lower in elevation, it's feeding into the double catch basin.
It's feeding into a double catch basin and feeding into the,
To basically the sort of like an isolator row. It's the cleaning row for the orange.
I heard you say that. So now, that's the rooftop. Now, what about the asphalt going around? For the asphalt going around, you have the left side of the driveway, the return, if you will, feeding into DCB2, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
And so there's, in the 100-year storm, there's 4 CFS going there, which is the max, a single catch basin rim.
So you have a double.
We needed a double.
yeah, I understand. And on the right side, you have it going into CB1, catch basin number 1? Is that what you're doing? And so those are the 2 exit points, okay? And then, I see. So here's the thing. I guess here's my question, now that I finally understand it minimally. Is part of the stormwater off the asphalt on the right side going into the isolator row, and part on the left is not, or is?
Yes. No, it's the other way.
It's the other way.
It's the other way. So the right is going through the CDS instead of the isolator row. The left is going through the isolator row instead of the CDS.
So the left first goes to the isolator row. The right does not,
It goes through the CDS instead.
which is the main tank, the main.
No, the CDS is separated.
Oh, I see, you're going to a, okay.
So that's where it gets.
Okay, so both are removing solids.
Correct.
That's what I was trying to get at. You have this moving solids, okay? And,
We'll have 2 ways of removing solids before it gets into the main body of the tank system.
yeah, one is the, one is going into the catch basin, which goes to the isolator row, catches the stuff.
Yep.
The other one goes into CDS 2015-4, whatever that is, okay? And that one goes into the other side of it, but it's already been cleaned as well.
Right.
So my question is, during a large storm, does it end up, the way that operates, does it end up flushing solids into that side of the infiltration?
No, because this side's wrapped in geofabric, so nothing can get through there but water.
On that side, but on the other side,
And on this side,
during a high storm, you have a bypass.
right, but it's also already going through a deep sump catch basin before that. And
So,
there's also an.
and it doesn't, and it's, if I remember, it doesn't resuspend the solids that are accumulated, does it?
And most of the solids are in the first flush, so they're in the first inch of rain.
Oh, I understand that, but I'm wondering, does the way this thing operates, is it going to
Oh, no, it doesn't get resuspended in the.
That's what I'm trying to,
Yeah, no,
I was trying to get that out.
Nope, it doesn't. So that stuff
okay.
gets stuck in there.
Okay,
And then the bypass, if it's a higher storm, is essentially clean water that's going into the R tanks.
right.
But there
right.
is an operation maintenance plan that goes with the R tanks to check and make sure it's still infiltrating and it's still functioning correctly.
Okay, and when do you know do you anticipate maintenance on the right side after the cyclonic separator, after the CDS unit? Do you anticipate that the infiltrator will require any maintenance, or it should be clean enough, it won't?
I mean, I think it'll take a long time for anything to really kind of, you're gonna have an inspection points to basically look and make sure that the water, you're gonna know because the water is either gonna stop draining correctly within the 72 hours, or it's not, or you're gonna physically see sediment in the inspection port. And so that's being checked over time regardless.
Okay,
So the idea there is I would assume it's gonna take, if the deep submitted catch basin is cleaned when we say it's supposed to, and the CDS is clean when we say it's supposed to, nothing's really supposed to get into that side.
and there'll be a homeowners association that takes care of it, supposedly?
That's correct.
And I guess we traditionally ask for proof of contract, or copies of contracts, is that, do we?
We certainly can in the order, yeah.
Okay, but that's under the conditions,
And
that's
there's
not,
log sheets within the O&M plan, we prepared logs that say for each PMV what they're looking for, and basically prepared a log sheet for them to fill out, if it
Right.
makes it easier for them. And sometimes what we'll do is that those will be submitted to the commission, or a stormwater commission, or something to that effect.
Yeah, we crack the whip these days and get these inspection things done.
do we?
I do.
She does.
You do?
So Larry, where I thought you were going with this, and you didn't quite get there, was like, so why are you routing the rooftop runoff through the CDS? Why doesn't that bypass the CDS?
It's a waste, it could.
Yeah, it's clean
No, I
water.
had that in mind, but I never said
Rather
it.
than, the thing is, they're going to be running like parallel pipes everywhere to get it to there. Like basically like this pipe still needs to be run, so then we're going to be running all these other little pipes by there to get there. Normally I would say, so if it was going to make the CDS unit bigger because of the amount of flow from the roofs, yeah, all day we'd see that repiping, but it's the CDS unit is way oversized for what we're doing.
So you don't need a bypass pipe around the CDS for the rooftop
We just
runoff?
didn't want to triple the pipes heading over to the R tanks, but it could be. There's no reason why it couldn't be sent directly to the R tanks, because it's clean roof.
I see. Is that actually a better design, or it's not necessary, given it's over-designed?
It's just the CDS itself is really big for the size and the amount of impervious it's going to it, so it doesn't, like if we had to add another CDS unit, the expense wouldn't make sense. We would probably just add those other pipes in.
Got it, okay.
The same issue, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Could you show me from unit 8 and 9, roof runoff, where the roof runoff is going?
Right, so the roof runoff is going to basically go around the unit itself. So some of it's
That's
going
the
to fall
Kent cottage, right?
on the grass and end up in the yard drain, and some of it's going to come off this way and end up in the pavement.
Oh,
And so the Kent cottage itself, I'm not sure how it, on a new building, you can put roof drainage in pretty easily. Roof drainage is not going to be architecturally relevant on the Kent, so we could do something like a drip edge and grab it there, but because it's so small, it's only a 1,500 square foot footprint, it's just going to hit the ground.
Okay, a couple more things. What it looks like is that you're taking, I guess, surface flow off the site, and now it is being more of a point discharge on the right side of the plan from the infiltration system. Is that some of it going off there?
Well,
Or is it all infiltrating?
well, let me check and see what we have coming off of there in the 100-year event. It's all in, let me check that one point.
Well, it's mostly infiltrating, but is the point,
It's
right?
mostly infiltrating, that's
Well,
the
here's
point.
the real question. Okay, I'm going to get sidetracked if I don't ask it quick.
Okay.
What effect is there on the supply of water to the hydrology of the wetlands? Now, having asked that question, it looks like you got towards the back of the site I thought it was like fairly gentle contours. And I'm not sure at all that the wetlands depend on this site to provide the hydrology at all.
Right.
But I thought that some kind of a statement of your professional opinion, not necessarily now.
So, yeah, I mean, just generally, all of the resource areas are connected, except for the isolated one towards the front of the site that's very small. And like you said, the site itself, outside of the CR, is only a little over 50,000 square feet, and there's a building and there's grass in fairly decent condition for the rest of the site. So the amount of water that's getting into the site itself and/or running off, we basically looked at it as one point, a design point, the wetland system.
Would you kind of put something in writing? The concern I'm asking you to address is whether the change in moving from a site that overflows towards the back of the site now to something that's infiltrating, how does that affect the hydrology? And the answer may be, when you look at it, that it's not at all. But there should be a little bit of detail that justifies the answer.
Okay.
Okay? Do we need a wildlife analysis at all for this project? I'm not sure at this point.
Well, we're going to be getting something from Natural Heritage Endangered Species about the bridal shiner. But it doesn't trigger any wildlife evaluations, I don't think, under Riverfront. I'll check, but I don't think it does.
Okay.
We also, John, you should have in your file, Oxbow did one for the Evo text.
Well, that's true.
I'm not sure why, but there is one that was done in 2016-ish area.
Okay, so you'll check on that. I'll put that down as a list for us, I guess, to check on that. The next thing is the conservation restriction. I think 7 years ago I asked this, and I don't remember what the answer was. Is there any possibility, or will this site work with any kind of a walkway around the rear of the property that goes around the whole circumference? The conservation restriction, it's...
Oh, of the property as a whole?
What?
The property, like the 21 acres?
No.
Oh, just the site?
It'd be nice if you volunteered.
I was like-
It would be nice if you volunteered to do that, but
That's a lot.
that would probably be out of scope for this project.
No. So basically, the project goes, we went to the project limits and to the CR.
But I'm wondering if there is a walking path that might be possible.
There's the aerial, just so you can kind of see.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Just around the
But
project.
I'm talking about around your project now. I'm not talking,
Right.
I would opt for the whole 21 acres.
Well, I forget what happened with that, because we talked about trails a lot at the last
Could
time.
you kind of look at it and see what, if anything, might be possible, or it's not possible? Just take a look at it and see if there's anything that might make sense, or,
So the site itself is pretty tiny. The development,
I know. But I'm just wondering, and in other words, what I'm really interested in is if there's a possibility of putting in any kind of a walking path, and you come up with a concept, but it's out of scope for the scale of what you're planning, then I'd like to talk to Todd Fremont Smith about it.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
We can talk about it, yeah.
In other words, I'd like to see if you could identify something that might be possible. He may say, well, not at this time, or, whatever, but you don't get if you don't ask.
Okay.
Okay.
I made a note.
So maybe at least the bare minimum, a concept of what it might look like. At a maximum, perhaps, you would build it.
Sorry.
And this would be part of a grander Riverwalk plan?
That's a big
Well, yeah, it could be, I'm thinking of many. We're trying to look at connectivity for
Yep.
walking, and obviously, that's a big subject these days. And so when we get projects in, we sometimes push the project proponents to put together the piecemeal section that might become part of a larger connected
Yeah.
walking area. So that's the context of which I'm asking this question.
Yeah, no, and I think there's a huge cost already associated with the reflective beacons that weren't required as part of the Evotex project originally to provide some pedestrian connectivity to the hardscape that's in that area. So, but we can definitely talk about it. But there's a huge investment to pedestrian connectivity with that aspect of the project too.
Which investment?
With there's basically two sets of reflective beacons that are going to be solar powered, and the crossing to get across to the other side of the road, and there's basically advanced warning beacons on both sides also. And the construction of that to create pedestrian connectivity from the site to the other side of the road where sidewalk exists.
Who was your contact at Nordblum?
Who are you working with mostly? Dan?
Yeah.
Dan Bowen, yeah.
Who is it?
Dan, that we're working with at Nordblum.
Dan. Okay, he's the
Bowen, right?
in Bowen.
Dan Bowen.
I think he's the same one that did that little forested area that he put in the pickleball courts there. Maybe you could tell him the Conservation Commission had a request
Okay,
of Dan.
I will.
I'd like to suggest he's a good friend of ours, so to speak.
Okay, I will.
Okay, but maybe you can come up with something. Sometimes it's not feasible, but maybe if there is, it would be nice if you could sort of bounce it off him a bit. Okay? Yes?
Oh, I just, this is a little, oh, sorry if I'm interrupting you, but
It's all right, I don't care.
Yeah, so on the opposite side of the property along Middlesex Turnpike Extension, I think by 8th Street, there's a bus stop for the LRTA bus that then goes to, I think, 3rd Ave, the mall, and Leahy. And I think, I mean, this might be something just, if more for like planning board or something, but there's a lot of times the people waiting for the bus there, they're like waiting in the street. So it's just something that, I mean, that might be something like, a separate sort of transportation or connectivity project or something for the planning board. But if there was something that like, I don't know, like somewhere maybe off the street a little bit where people could actually wait for the bus, because that's right near, Lord Barron's.
You could
Environmental Justice.
you could give the planning director a call too, if you'd like, and just spring that on him.
Yeah, I know, like,
Yeah.
like Barbara added the bus stop
Call
at
Liz.
Brookline Village, I think, for students, too. So it'd be something, if, if we're thinking about connectivity and like that, it might be something just to sort of.
Okay, the last question I had is, do your plans mark the trees to be removed so we can see them? Are they on the plans, which trees are being removed?
So the ones that are not part of the forest are marked.
The ones that are what?
The ones that are not part of like the, sort of the forest, the edge of basically the tree line itself have not been marked, only the ones that sort of stand within the field. There's 19, I believe, larger trees. We can look at it, we could certainly look at it when we're out there though, and I can just check to see.
Those kind of ones around the
Right.
existing buildings,
These
right?
are all, right.
Next to all, one way around.
Okay.
These ones are marked? Is that what you mean?
Which sheet is that?
And these?
That are marked here. There's some area within this existing tree line here.
Okay, so they are marked, in other words, is what
The
you're
one- the
saying?
ones in the center, kind of.
The ones in the center, but how about the ones around the,
There's some marked here. I'll just check with the surveyor and make sure that those are all the ones over 12 inches.
okay, and are they going to be marked in the field as well?
Before they're cut, they can be.
Like a ribbon?
Yeah, no, that could be, yeah, usually, typically that's required, but yes, use that.
Okay.
That's on Plan C4.
Plan C4, okay. 4, okay. Cut trees, okay. So you'll check to see if the plan has everything that is being removed on it?
That's over 12 inches.
Over 12, okay, over 12 inches. Okay, all right. That's all I have. So is there anyone else, we've sort of had a kind of an interactive discussion here. The commission kind of contributed quite a bit. So should we go through the list of what I have, or anybody else can add to it if I miss stuff? Okay, what I had is that one of the things that our staff and you folks, or I guess our staff, John and Eileen, are both, we need to field verify the bank flags and the BVW flags. Okay. Something about the phosphorus calculation. Did we have something
Just
required?
confirming the phosphorus calculation. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to take a look at the alternative pavement material in front of the garage doors. Color copy, on at least one drawing of the drainage and whatever else, so we can delineate all the setbacks. Is that what we were doing?
Yeah, everything, the floodplain, the front area, the 50-foot no build,
Color
all
copy
the
of
lines that are on there.
all
So you can
dotted
tell which is
lines.
which, yeah.
Okay, all dotted lines, we got it. We're going to review for one-to-one tree replacement. Okay, feel free to correct me if I got it wrong. You're going to take a look at the hydrology, come up with some statement on whether the hydrology, water to the wetlands is likely to be significantly altered. And obviously, yes, if the answer was yes, you'd come up with something or other. Okay. John or Eileen, you're going to check out whether we need a wildlife study? And We talked about the concept minimum of perhaps, if it's feasible, to come up with a concept for a walking path around the circumference. And any other place you want, obviously, I mean, okay. You're going to check for the trees to be removed, 12 inches or over, make sure they're all marked on the plan. Anything else?
I forgot to ask my favorite question. How are these going to be heated?
Are they going to be heated?
Yes.
Right now, I believe gas. There's a gas line right up front.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would encourage no fossil fuels if that's at all possible. I think that's going to become more and more restrictive in the future, and now's the time to build them all electric if that's possible and economically feasible. Certainly would be environmentally beneficial. I would encourage you to look into that as much as possible, please.
Would you consider heat pumps as an acceptable alternative?
Yeah.
Why don't they, instead of gas, why don't they, maybe you know the answer to this, why don't they put in heat pumps in new units like this? Is there like a reason that I'm not,
Well, first of all, it's more expensive.
is it?
Yes.
Take more maintenance.
I'm not so sure. It's obviously new to the industry, and I'm not so sure as to whether it's as efficient and as quick as gas heat. For instance, if you come in and turn your thermostat on when you walk in the house, it takes a little bit longer with a heat pump.
Right.
Okay, to provide quicker heat, and but the air conditioning's about the same, but the heat is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it eliminates a lot of duct work.
So how is the air conditioning being done here? Is it going to be duct work, or is it going to be wall-mounted?
No, it'll be duct work.
It'll be duct work.
Yeah,
So you already have duct work and a compressor outside.
Central air.
You just put in a compressor that works both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a heat pump, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you've already got the ductwork in place, so it's really not that much more expensive. Just a matter of changing that and not eliminating all the gas hardware.
We just recently done a study. We've done a lot of these units, and we do also 24, 30 unit buildings. And it was, to do the heat pumps, it was 20 to 30% more than fossil fuel.
More than what? The entire project cost, or just the cost of heating?
No, the cost of heating.
The cost of the heating
Cost of heating.
hardware?
Yeah, no, just the cost of heating.
Is there not rebates available, or maybe?
There is some rebates available, yes. And I couldn't tell you exactly what they are, to be honest with you, but there are some available, yes. And I guess, like I said, we'd be happy to look into that.
Yeah, I would really appreciate that, because I think it's time to really start pushing in that direction. I know the state has a program that their goal is to take natural gas heat out of 1 million houses in Massachusetts. I mean, that's their goal. So in 50 years from now, you're not going to be allowed to have it, perhaps. You just don't know.
Right.
We had also a problem with aesthetics, because for each level, you had to have a unit outside. So now you got a mess outside your unit.
But you have that for air conditioning anyways. Right?
Yeah,
You
but
gotta have the
if you want to put the heat pump in, which I tried to consider for my finished basement, everything else would stay the same that's
Right.
already there.
Right, but
But I
in
got another unit outside.
Sure.
Now aesthetics from the trustees start jumping all over the
But
place.
in
I
new
don't want that.
construction, instead of one unit
If you
that does
can-
air
if you
conditioning,
can
it's
sell it
one
that
unit
way.
that does both.
Yeah.
Because you still have the same ductwork.
It would have to be new construction.
Right.
So, Larry, 2 points that you didn't mention. We need documentation on the Ferguson R tank,
Okay.
and we need to schedule a site visit. We've got most of the commissioners here. Do you want to schedule it now? And then we can, do the other site visits, schedule them around this one, because this is the one that'll probably take the most time.
So we're talking the 24th? The day before the meeting?
Yeah. So Wednesday, the 24th, 3 o'clock? That seem right?
Okay.
Did you say we're going to have a different number of site visits? Somebody mentioned, was Eileen, that mentioned you might have to start earlier because of a Large number of site visits?
That was
No?
me, but 3 o'clock is probably fine.
Okay, 3 o'clock.
Okay.
It'll be dark.
Is
It'll
that
be
so, like,
dark even later.
Right.
Okay. Kent's Cottage.
So you'll be able to pull in, you have to be going northbound.
Right.
I don't think you can pull in from going southbound, so you have to be going northbound on the Middlesex Turnpike to get in. Yeah, well, yeah, we'll carpool too. We'll meet at the, why don't we can meet at the, our office at like 2:45, and so we can be at the site at 3.
Okay, okay.
For insurance purposes, Nordboom has to open the gate and have one of their people there, so we will request that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great.
And John, you'll reach out to me or straight to Oxbow to get a site walk on your own on the
Yeah.
side?
Okay, yeah.
Or you can
Yeah,
reach out through me.
I can reach out to them.
Okay, so I guess we'll see you maybe at, I don't know if you're going to the site visit. You will? Okay, so we'll see you at the site visit, and again, we'll see you at the meeting the next day.
Very good. Need to continue?
Do you want to continue to the next meeting? Or how, when do you open with the planning board?
Next Thursday.
So do you want to go 2 weeks?
Let's keep it on. I don't know what's going to happen with the planning board. I can let you know in advance if we need to continue. If that's
All right, so
okay.
you'll just ask for a continuance if
Yeah, if that's
things come
okay.
up.
Yeah.
All right, could I have a motion to continue the hearing for, what's the address? 225 Middlesex Turnpike, to our meeting of, second meeting in April 24th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
It's the 25th.
25th.
25th, change that motion to the 25th. 600.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you.
See you too. Thanks. Have a good night.
Okay.
Waiting a long time for his engineering change.
Yeah,
It's an hour, right?
13 minutes.
It looks like a lot of work.
I don't do anything.
Yeah, tell you the
You're
truth,
saying
I really
how-
like the previous plans better, where they're just gonna put business in there with a glass addition. I thought that was sharp as hell.
It was, well, we don't regulate aesthetics.
No, plus, business just couldn't do it, they came in there all the time.
Yeah, okay, so, all right, so now we're on request for a minor engineering change, 59 to 61 Middlesex Turnpike, Nuria Energy Corporation, DEP file number 122-681. This gentleman has been waiting very, very patiently. Good part of the evening. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Michael Treverton. I'm with Nuria Energy, representing the property at 5961 Middlesex Turnpike. Here for a minor engineering change. This project is nearing an end. We're hopeful to be looking to get our certificate of occupancy. Obviously, there's some steps we have to take before that, but looking to get our CO in the next couple of weeks. And so with that, we completed our as-built, for our final site as-built for submission to town engineering staff. And with that, we discovered that one of the catch basins was shifted during construction. And this caused that rear curb line on the front left of the screen to shift back. And with that, it caused additional impervious area. So that's one part of this minor engineering change that we have in front of you tonight. The other part of this is we have an outdoor patio area, seating area on Middlesex Turnpike. This was previously planned to be built with concrete. As a company-wide initiative, we are changing this area on all our locations to be turf, artificial grass. And another part of this minor engineering change is presenting the turf in front of you. This area is now actually going to be pervious rather than impervious. So some of the thought process just happened to, I guess, work out in this situation where we had a alteration during construction, increased impervious area. However, we somewhat made up for it with the turf being pervious area.
Okay, so the request is for a minor engineering change because they expanded the pavement a little bit, and they're putting in the artificial green stuff to make it pervious on the other side to sort of compensate.
Yes, yep, yep.
Okay. All right, let's see if there's any comments. John and Eileen, do you have any comment on this?
Not really. I explained this was happening the last time in that they had, moved the catch basin, so that was going to move the curb, this had moved the curb line a little bit, and that they were proposing to put something else down here that might be artificial turf. Your suggestion was, well, if they can make that a pervious paver or something, we could skip the MEC. It was already in place by the time I sort of went to them, maybe the next day. So, okay, it's in place. It's actually pervious. I just have some pictures here just to show you this is what the turf looks like. It's a very small patio right on lovely Middlesex Turnpike where everybody will enjoy eating their hot dogs. And this just to show you, that's the curb line. It was supposed to be, I guess, a little bit closer this way, and it just got pushed out a few feet. Everything else is looking pretty good on there. This is kind of a nifty picture. There's the fence I thought it was nifty, right in between. You've got the developed side on this side, and you've got the bank, the very steep bank towards Vinebrook on that side. They had a bit of a washout, and it's pretty stabilized now. I think that's going to come along pretty well. So we made it a minor engineering change. Up to you guys what to do about it. I mean, these things happen in terms of the moving of the catch basins. I don't know if you have anything else to say about that.
All right, let's see if anyone has anything else to say. Kent, anything else?
Nothing to add.
Indra, anything else on this?
Nope.
Ed, anything?
Nope.
Rob, anything?
No.
Bill, anything?
Just one question out of curiosity. What's the substrate for the AstroTurf? What goes under
About
that?
12 inches of crushed stone.
Crushed stone, and then
Yep.
that's just laid right on the stone?
Yep.
Aren't there 2 layers of things?
It's described to me as 12 inches of crushed stone, but I
And then
could,
what's underneath that?
I think it's the
Okay.
subgrade material.
Okay. All right, so my assessment is that the area that was necessarily expanded in pavement was in the inner riparian zone and was a valuable space that would have been nice not to have that happen, obviously. The area that you're replacing it with and the artificial grass along Middlesex Turnpike is probably about the least useful space to have as pervious relative to natural resource protection. So it begs the question, is there anything else you can do? And the answer, of course, anybody who's been on the site, I think the answer comes back no. I don't know what else we would ask, and Bill would certainly ask it, or anybody else here would ask, if there was something else you could do that would make it a more equal swap. But I just don't see it. I mean, I don't know how often I'm going to buy a tuna fish sandwich and eat it with the cars whizzing by Middlesex Turnpike. But you never know. You never know.
I think they've done very well with what they had to work with, to tell you the truth. It looks like it's going to function well, and then the area to the right of the building on the drawing is a green space that is much better than was there before, and that's, I think that's going to look, that whole area is planted nicely, and I think that's going to be an improvement in itself right there.
Okay, but before we get to a vote, I wanted to bring up a subject. Those of us who are at the site might appreciate this. You have a very steep slope going into Vinebrook.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's going to hold, okay, in a few major rainstorms. So I would ask, please don't ask for the certificate of compliance if you have major erosion going on there.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, it might hold fine, the whole thing may revegetate, but maybe it's going to require some planting that soaks up water to help hold it together, or something, I don't know what, but it may just be fine, and I'm not saying it's not, but
Yeah.
that is a very steep slope, and if all the landscaping also is washing off down the bank and off to the right and stuff like that, and all the mulch is sort of like being washed away. I think you'd have to do something to address that, so that's not happening like that.
Right, yep.
Okay, so I guess I'd ask you, don't come back and ask for a certificate if it's really pretty bad, if that's happening.
I'm probably gonna be quickly coming back to you guys for that certificate, and I guess I'm trying to think of like something in short order
I
that,
think he's suggesting that maybe just don't, because
Okay.
give it a little while to see how everything's stable. There's no major hurry for it. You'll
Okay.
get your certificate of occupancy. I think everybody's going to be happy to give them a certificate of
Yeah,
occupancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it doesn't change, yeah.
sure.
You can wait a little while just to see.
I mean, unless there's an urgent reason why you need it.
No, that all makes
Is
sense. Huh?
Do you
I
actually
mean,
need it?
other than just like closing it out and being able to move on, but I fully hear you and understand the point about that, and certainly want to, do right by the commission and ensure that Bankman doesn't wash away.
And the other thing is, if it's a food establishment, and if when you do ask for the order of conditions, we don't always get this, but it'd be nice if there's trash there, if you'd pick it up before we get there.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I mean,
Yep.
please.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so, all right.
Something with the mulch, and that's, they do have a screen that it's in the mulch to help it from being eroded.
It's in there now?
Yeah,
Yeah. and there was
Oh,
a-
you're talking about on the slope?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. It might be absolutely fine.
Do you mean on the back, sort of right where it got eroded?
the top of the bank, yeah.
Right, because there's some mulch right behind the fence. I think John and I were looking at it the other day. Sorry, just let me use the thing. Over here, it just looks kind of precarious, I think. I wouldn't like to see that, the silt fence being taken out from behind that just yet.
No,
Because-
I think we're gonna
Yeah.
plan to leave that up for a bit.
Yeah.
And even down on the embankment there too.
I can just see it now, the next 3-inch rainstorm, all the commissioners run out there to see what's going on.
Yeah, no, I think we'll leave the silt fence and the hay stacks, I don't wanna get it wrong, but we'll leave those in place for a while, and plan to come back.
Right,
I
right.
think Turk was talking about the jute netting.
Yeah,
That's what he's referring to.
Isn't that the entire
Yeah,
length?
that's
though?
probably okay.
No, it's where they had the washout, I think, primarily.
Oh, I thought it was going on the entire.
All right, anyways, that was a sort of a sidebar anyway.
Sure.
Okay, could I have a motion to issue that the change that has occurred for the expansion and the compensation with the artificial turf could be considered a minor engineering change for 5961 Middlesex Turnpike for Noria Energy DEP file number 122-681. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. You're all set.
Thank you very much, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
But I'm around all the
Okay.
time, so call me.
We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening.
You too.
Sorry for the long wait.
No problem.
Anyways, planning board comments, is there anything that needs to be communicated to them at all?
Well, they were waiting to hear about that project, the Noria and minor engineering change, because they have one as well, so we'll let them know about that.
Okay?
I'm not sure if any of our concerns about Kent Cottage needs, probably that's it.
You mean that weren't addressed?
No, I mean, I'm wondering if any of our Kent Cottage issues or anything that the
Oh, sorry, that we should
planning
tell
board's
them, right.
interested in, but
Well, we could pass on Rob's, or he could pass on his suggestion. That's more of your suggestion was more of a planning board sort of thing. It's not really in our purview, the thing about but it was a nice idea. Tell them.
You also could mention that they're going to look at alternative paving in front of the garages. They might be interested in that. And also, could you mention the trails concept that we asked about?
okay.
Do they put pressure on people to do non-fossil fuels at all, planning? mentioned that we're encouraging them to put in.
I don't think so
Repeating.
yet.
We could lead them in that direction, maybe?
Yeah. Forest pavers, what was the third thing? That Larry had said?
Trails.
No, I've got that, trail concept, porous paving, and there was the third thing. Sorry, I just wanted, oh, it was the
Rob's saying about the
transportation.
bus station.
Bus stop.
Yeah. All right, next is subcommittee and staff reports. Anything going on? Anybody? Okay, other business? Anything under other business?
I have just a quick question. So I think board member, like we used to have a select board liaison, and I think it was board member Runyon. So I was wondering that just if we have a new.
They did the,
Didn't see.
I don't know if they did the committee assignments yet.
I haven't been informed if they have.
Oh, it's.
Yeah,
Do we have one? Because he never, he never comes to our meetings? Oh,
Used to around Christmas.
Yeah, he would show up once a year and congratulate us for doing a good job. Onion would, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Oh.
He did.
I was wondering about that too, whether we should have more. You can feel free to volunteer to be a,
Do we have a school committee at all representative that is supposed to be assigned to us? I don't think so. Okay, because they have 21 subcommittees that they have. I saw them, and they're going down the list. I'll take that, I'll take this, I'll take this.
wow,
I don't know when they have a life.
wow.
Okay,
Just one tiny thing is the Recreation Department is having their spring fling on the day of our meeting, the 25th.
Spring-a-palooza.
Well, no, this is actually their spring fling,
Oh,
which
it's
is a
different.
subset of their Spring-a-palooza, I think.
Oh,
I was just going to
okay.
tell you that we're going to be, okay, I'm going to be there with an Enviroscape, you know, one of those.
what is it?
It's like a plastic representation of terrain, and kids and adults get to play with it and like spray water on it and make poo go into the, you know, catch basins and things, and fertilizer, and, you know, it sort of shows you road runoff and things like that, which is just kind of a fun, interactive sort of learning experience. So if anybody wants to come along to that,
When and where?
Wildwood Park on the 25th between 4 and 6 p.m., right before this meeting.
Does it demonstrate the concept that water runs downhill?
It does, actually. And not just downhill, but like into catch basins, and then through the catch basin, like through a pipe, into, oh, look at that, into the stream. Ooh, you know, that,
Is this a model that you have set up already?
we're borrowing it. These things are expensive, so whenever I use it, I have to borrow it.
Okay, all right.
So one other thing, actually, so we had a vernal pool walk this week, and we have a bird walk scheduled on May 8th at 9 o'clock, and if you're interested, you have to sign up through the Recreation Department. But we're leading the bird walk.
And John were you actually filmed for some of the, well, John and Suzanne, some of the vernal pool thing?
Tad from BCAT was there.
So he's going to be on BCAT
Okay,
again?
so this is a May 8th bird walk, what time?
9 a.m.
Where will it be, John?
We'll be at Mill Pond.
We'll have all commissioners and nobody else.
All right, very good, thank you. If there's nothing else, the upcoming meetings, the second one in April is April 25th, 2024. The first one in May is May 9th, 2024. Anything further? All right, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Conservation Commission?
So move.
Second?
Second, Kent.
All in favor? 600. We are now adjourned. Good evening.